Hello, welcome to this Procreate tutorial where we will be going over how to use Procreate, the digital art app for beginners, including things like how to open a new drawing, how to change your brushes, how to use layers, just general things like that that every beginning digital artist should know. My name is Mary, and this is the first part in the Care Art Organization educational video series where we'll be going over a variety of different topics in art and STEM and different areas every 2 weeks. So let's get started. So first, like I mentioned before, this is an ongoing video series from Care Art Organization, which is a student-led nonprofit based in the Pennsylvania area, where we teach library lessons and other nonprofit lessons, and we decided to record some of our lessons for our online audience so people can access it at any time. This first lesson, as I mentioned before, we'll be going over the basics of Procreate specifically for beginners. So if you already used it, you're a little more advanced, you may want to wait for a later video just to best serve your time. But this video will demonstrate how artists can best utilize the software, everything it has to offer, to create amazing pieces with their skills. So first, I just want to go over a few examples of what Procreate can be used for, just so people who are just coming into the digital art world can kind of see some examples of what they can create if they continue practicing. So as you can see here, there's a variety of posters, like wallpapers, illustrations of people or flowers, which can also be turned into items like stickers, maybe a few larger items, for example a print or just anything really. This is kind of the base of where we can create, but you can also turn to other things like logos or things that can be used more practically. And Procreate also does offer an animation feature. As you can see in the bottom right there, the frames at the bottom are the layers. That's how Procreate animation works. There is another option for animating with the Procreate world called Procreate Dreams, but that will be in a later video. So there's a lot of different things you can do right now. We're going to be focusing on Procreate for beginners, but you can do animation, or you can do things like concept art or world building if you are creating it for a story or anything like that. So next, just want to quickly go for our lesson plan. So we're going to be going over the fundamentals with the top toolbars, how to use the color wheel, and also there's a bunch of different layer things that we'll go over really briefly, just so you can make sure that everything in your art piece is organized. So first, before I open Procreate and get you guys started, I want to go over what it'll look like. So when you open the app alongside it with me, which I recommend doing just so we can follow along together, you're not completely confused. So first we have the home page, which will have all your pieces laid out there just in front of you. You can name them also. You can group them into stacks, but here this is just them without that, so you can see them individually. In the top right, you will see the options to create a new piece. So select is to select your pieces together, but import and photo will bring in a new file that'll create that piece, but the plus, which is what I usually use, will create a blank canvas for you, and I'll show you. You can change the dimensions and also save some dimensions that you like to use. So that's where you'll be creating the piece. When you do, this is what you'll see. The artboard, like most art programs, in the middle, and then on the top is where you'll find your toolbar, and this is non-editable. I know other programs like Illustrator, or InDesign will have more customizability, but Procreate is just always on the top. On the top left, you'll have your effects, and on the right, you'll have more of the brush and the physical things you're doing. And we'll go over more those in more detail. And then on the very left hand side, those are your brush controls, so your size and transparency. And you can also edit your artboard a little, but I'll show you all of that with the program. So first, just zooming into that right toolbar, like I said before, this is where you're creating a lot of things. So just in general, when you select something, it'll be highlighted in blue there. Pretty self-intuitive, but just in case you're wondering. So on the very left-hand side, we have the paintbrush, which is, you know, the pencil that you're like drawing with. There's only one. And then the little like hand there is the blending tool. And then the eraser, and then the two squares on top of each other is where you can access your layers. And then that circle there is your color wheel. And when you click on the paintbrush, blender, and eraser, as you can see in that photo right there, you can select the different brush that you're using. But I'll also demonstrate that to you in person. And then moving over to the left toolbar, like I said before, this is where most of your effects are. So the little, I mean, obviously like the gallery is how you leave, but the four on the to the right of that, first you have your toolbar, which is your actions, which kind of like is more your setup of the artboard. And like the little wand there is the adjustments, which you can see on the bottom left-hand corner, where you can change your color balance or add some blur effects. That'll help you kind of take your drawing to the next level. So we won't spend too much time there in order to keep this video as short and informative as possible. And then the little S and mouse there is how you can select certain parts of your drawing that you want to move around with without like moving everything around. So we'll also demonstrate that to you. That's like the lasso tool in case you've used like other programs. That's what the S is for. Okay, so now that we just quickly went over what to expect, you know, when opening the app, so we can dive into it as effectively as possible, we're going to open the Procreate app now, and then awesome. So now that you're together, this is my Procreate app. You can see there's quite a bit more drawings present on here. We're not going to be going through all of them, but you know, there's a lot of different drawings that come over the years, and you can see that I've created stacks and named all of them. It also tells you how many artworks are in each. So first, I'm going to open my care folder, which is where I keep a lot of care stuff. And then, as you can see, there's some drawings here. Not going to go through any of them, but you can see I'm going to tap the plus icon on the top right, and then it'll give me a bunch of options for different dimensions that you can use. It'll also tell you more information about the color right next to it. So you can save like dimensions as well by like hitting this, and it'll let you create like a custom one. However, I'm just going to choose screen size, as it's kind of like the simplest, and it'll just like create like a white canvas that's, you know, the size of your like tablet or whatever you're using Procreate on. So as you can see, you can like, I don't know, adjust the view of your canvas as much as you want. You can zoom in by like just like expanding, you know, with your fingers, and you like also rotate it. I know in other programs like Illustrator, you might like have to like control like plus to zoom in or out, but this is like really simple. So you can see that automatically selects my brush. So when I tap on that, as you can see, it opens up that library, and all of these like brushes are automatically imported with Procreate, but you can also download and import your own like from the web if you like buy any or download any for free. So you can see there's like a bunch of different options. I'm just gonna like, you know, make a few marks. You can see like it's very different if I use this one as compared to like this one. And this will help you create like a lot of different textures. So you know, I'm just gonna like scribble some things on here. My favorite personally is the sear brush. That's why it's in my recent tab. Obviously it's very self-explanatory, but any brushes that you use, the newest will show up in the top. Okay, so if I want to make this bigger, I will go to the left-hand side, like I mentioned before, where I can like drag this thing up and increase the size. So, you know, let's make that a little bigger so it's like easier to see things. And then this like square right here is the color dropper. So you can like, you know, grab colors, but I personally find it easier if you just tap and hold, it'll bring up the same thing. You can color drop right there. And then on the bottom of this like little screen here is the opacity, which is basically just the transparency of something. So be careful if you're a new digital art user to not set 0, as we've seen a lot of people like draw at 0 opacity and then think that the iPad is glitching. It's not. Your transparency is just at max, so it won't show up at all. Just make sure. I like to play around with this a lot in my drawings. Just make sure it's not at 0 or anything, because you're obviously gonna be able to see it. So I don't know about you guys, but I don't really like this drawing. Not my best work. So if you want to delete something, you can go to layers here, and then like clear it, which is a really easy way to just like get rid of everything. However, if I like something but not other things, you can also obviously just use the eraser tool here, and you can increase the size and then like erase and then maybe like leave a little of it. So next we can go over the blending tool, which is in the middle of those. So you can also choose the like brush that you're using. So like for example, like the soft brush is going to like, you know, have this like smooth effect. But if I choose like maybe like a harder one, like for example the flat brush, you can obviously see it's like a very different like blending texture. So it is helpful to change these. And then the eraser, you can also change the brush, although I'm not sure why you need to do that. You can if you desire. So next we can go to the layers. So the way you create new one is just this plus button at the very top, and each canvas has a different like max limit for your layers, depends on how big it is. So to delete one that you don't need, you can swipe like to the left, and then it'll give you lock, which will like make it so you can't edit it, duplicate, which will just duplicate it, and delete, which will, you know, get rid of it. And then if you don't know what layers are, basically it's just kind of like all the drawings come together, and you know, if I'm drawing on layer 1, it's not gonna edit like layer 2. So let's say I'm on this layer and I'm like, I'm trying to erase this one, it's not gonna like edit, or it can't like affect the other. This is a good way for like line art. You're trying to like color something in and you don't want to like disrupt one drawing, put on a separate layer, and you won't affect the other. So that's more about, we'll go over more detail about layers later, but next you can go to color. So when you tap on the circle, it'll like bring you this page, and there's a bunch of different like options for colors. Like, you know, you can use these like palettes, or you can like get a square. I personally like the disc. I think it's the easiest to like manage. So by going around the circle, you can change the hues, which is like the pure color. And then this like circle in it will let you change the amount like gray or like white you're adding to the hue. So this is like how you change your colors. Like I mentioned before, you can like color drop. So let's say I'm trying to like blend these colors together to create this beautiful color, and I color drop to the middle and get that one. It's just an example of how you can like, you know, use colors and stuff like that. So let's just really quickly like draw maybe an apple, like a little like tone, for example, of effects. You can also go for selecting. So I'm gonna draw my apple. I'll grab some brown, maybe like a darker black with the leaf. Awesome. So here's our apple. And then let's say I want to, you know, do half this apple, so I'm going to move over to the top left with the effects, and hit the S. This is perhaps one of the most useful like features of Procreate. You're probably have to do this a lot. So this is like the selection tool, and then there's a few different options. Automatic, I think, is not very helpful. Just like do things like automatically. I don't think that's very necessary. So then I always use the freehand. So this will like let you draw the lasso, and then make sure to like bring it the end back to the beginning, like that little gray dot where you first started using the lasso tool. And then immediately don't hit anything else. You hit the mouse, and then if you like move it, then you can like select certain things. You can like make it bigger, make it smaller. And when you're selecting things, you can, there's a few different like options you can do. You can move it around by just tapping anywhere that's like not like actually the drawing. If you tap the drawing, it might like if you tap any of these like things, it might like, you know, make it bigger or something. You don't do that. and the reset button is like right there. So just gonna show you really quickly different things you can do when you like selected something. So first, freeform is like you can make things bigger and smaller, but it's like the aspect ratio is not like set, so you can like make it really skinny and it's gonna look like not like the same ratio as the first one. But if you do uniform, it's locked, so you can't like make it like a different ratio than the like original. Like it has to like expand the height as you're straighten the width, if that makes sense. So you can it's kind of easy to visualize. You can see I can like stretch like this, but for uniform, it'll just like have to grow to keep that like same ratio. So then the distort, it'll kind of like warp things. It's just like one like edge of it will be like warped. It's all different from like warp, because like you can like kind of bend it more, but then with distort you're like dragging one corner and it's just like like warping it that way, or distorting it that way, let's say. So that's more about selection tool. And if you don't select anything, you just hit the mouse, it'll let you just move your drawing. You can also take any of those actions like as listed above right there. Like make an apple like pretty wide, chunky apple. And then I'll color drop this and then give him a face also. So you can get a smiley face. There we go. So let's say I love this apple so much and I just want to make a bunch more of them. So we're just going to quickly go over how to do some things with layers. So first, I'm going to duplicate this. I'm just going to hit the mouse directly, and then I'm going to move him over here. So then, I have another one now. I can make him a little smaller. He's a little bigger now. And then maybe like, make like a wallpaper or something. So I'm just going to drag this one up. And then fill my canvas with a bunch of apples. Oops. So then, yeah, now I have a bunch of these guys. But let's say the background is it's just okay. It's just white. So if I hit the layers, you can see on the bottom there's a background color. And then if you edit this, it's automatically white. But if you edit it, like change the color. So let's make it a nice blue. Awesome. So now that we're here, kind of showing you more about like the different options are with like drawing and stuff like that. Next, I'm just going to show you a few more things with layers, a few more effects, and we'll wrap up. So first, I'll do the first one because it's the biggest. You can also name your layers. By the way, I'm going to do this one like main because he's the biggest. So you can, or I guess I'll show you what I just did. So you can like hide them with the little check mark, like right here. If you hit the end, you can also change the opacity of the whole thing right there. It's automatically set to max, but you could edit it as you wish. And then for this, you can alpha lock, which if you never used digital art before, that just means you can't draw anything outside of what's already there. So I'm gonna make my brush really big, and then I'm gonna color this guy maybe like purple. And then you can see like I'm drawing right now outside of it, but since I alpha locked it, it's like still like contained in like what's already there. I'm gonna undo that though. And then you can also do a clipping mask, although that's kind of used to demonstrate with like a little different thing. So basically, if I draw like when you do clipping mask, kind of like this is like masked onto like the thing below it. So in this layer, you can only draw things that's like on the layer underneath it. So if I undo it, you can see it's like wherever, but if I put on a clipping mask, you can see that this is only contained to the thing that's below it. So that's a little more about the layer effect, so you can do with them. And then finally, I'll be going over how to resize your canvas and do a little more of this action over here. So you can add photos, you can like copy your canvas, like copy like certain layers and move them onto another one by hitting the paste option. You can also copy and resize your drawing. So if I wanted to make it bigger, you can see that it tells you how many layers are available at the top there. Like the more large it is, the less layers you have available. So I can do that. Then it'll resize that for me. And then I can like duplicate this and then move another big apple down here if I want to. And also be careful when you're resizing As you can see, like if I cut it off, it'll obviously like cut the drawing. You might not want to do that. If you hit undo though, it will obviously undo that action, so no worries if you do that accidentally. Finally, I'll just go over quickly the adjustments. So we can go over the Gaussian blur. So a lot of these things are pretty similar anyway for like the entry level, but you can play around with it on your own time. I don't make this video too long, but for example, this is like a lot of effects. So right now I'm on my Apple layer, and then the more I like turn this Gaussian blur up, I just slide to the right. The higher you make it, like obviously the more blurry it gets, and it just makes things easier for you instead of like trying to smudge the outside of it. It'll just do it automatically. So that is the basics of how to use the Procreate app. I'll be going over a quick ending and recap, and then you're free to go and continue to explore Procreate. So first, a few samples, a few ideas of what you could do. These are all drawn by me. So there's like some like bookmarks that you can print out on a piece of paper and laminate maybe. There's like some pins that you can print out if you have a pin making machine. There's also some like nice like just art, of cute things, maybe good for a computer screen. And you can see that these are very different styles. You can really play around with the different things as well. There's different shading techniques, different colors. There's a lot of things you can do with the program really. So just a quick recap of what we learned. So we went over the home page, how to create those drawings and rename them. Also the toolbar on the top, and then how to adjust the brushes and textures of the paintbrush, the eraser, and the smudge. Also how to edit the color wheel and use the color drop feature. Also how to change the background color, layers and effects, and exporting and sharing is really simple. It's just an actions menu in the toolbar. So thank you so much for spending your time with me. We really appreciate it and hope you learned something very useful from this intro to Procreate for beginners. There will be a new Care video every Monday, so be on the lookout for future opportunities to learn more about a program you might not be too familiar with and to expand your skills in the arts and STEM area. So on the page are social media contact information, and thank you so much for watching. Hope you have a great day.